1, 2, 37? Alright, I think this thing is working. Hello, it's been a while. How's it going? Um, just notifying you a few channel things and also working on something really cool if I can ever finish it. So I'll be asking for your guys' opinion on this. I'm going to be building a giant, like, super forge. It's gonna be pretty cool looking. Um, but yeah. Channel update. A few things have gone wrong. Currently, I'll only be able to be posting gaming on here, and only be posting really live. I'll be going like strictly live and stuff, and that's about it. Nothing else is gonna be really going on. I really hate this controller drift. Alright, anyway, yeah, that's about it. Basically, I'm only streaming on mainly games now, and I can only stream on this, so no more vlogs and all that good stuff. But yeah, that's about all I really have to say for now. I just want to get into the actual building. So I'm thinking about making it about this large and scratching that middle pillar for the entrance. The idea is to make basically a super base that's also a giant forge. So that's mainly what I'm going to do, is build like a super forge. I kind of want to make like this base in a volcano or a volcanic set of terrain. But yeah, this takes a lot of time to do, and it's getting really tedious. These pillars are quite easy, actually. It's just the mainly other stuff that's getting in the way, like ideas. I'm getting burnt out already, and I don't even know what I'm going to be doing. Um, hmm. I'm thinking about making it somehow similar to some other things that I have ideas for. So this is not only just going to be a giant forge, guys. I'm making like an entire country or medieval nation, if you will, or faction. So the whole lore behind it is pretty self-explanatory. Along other lines, mainly, a giant ancient beast walked around the planet millions of years ago. During this time, the sun was a part of the planet, which is kind of cool. And the idea is that this creature, unlike other creatures that grew to be so powerful and strong that they could withstand the heat of the sun, point blank, this creature decided, hey, whoop-de-doo, what if I absorb the sun? So it tried absorbing the sun, melted, and its head exploded with infinite knowledge of the sun, and shattered around the world into these fragments. Basically, in these little fragmented zones in the Middle Earth, if you will, basically you have the ability to cast magical spells with ease, compared to having to, like, say something or do an actual ritual. Things could just start happening and become quite easy. If you meditate in one of these spots, or hell, was born in one, you could be very well a powerful mage and could possibly commune with magic. On a mental level, not on a, like, actual vocal level or physical. But yes, you'll be able to, like, be one with magic. It's pretty cool. The idea is that you can access magic's mind, which is pretty neat. But yes, the idea for this forge is that it's going to be either in a giant volcano or at the top of a giant hill. Now I'm thinking about making it the hill thing because a volcano is quite hard to build, and yeah, I just don't want to have to deal with that. But hey, who knows? Um, so the main idea with this whole where I'm going with this is after the creature melted, its magical, mystical, magic-filled energy created an entire race, unlike humans, called the Enderians. As you can see, I'm an Enderian, or an Enderman, whatever you want to call it, but Enderian's the proper name. The Endermen are dark versions of us that have been warped by another dimension. I don't really need to get into that right now. I will if you would like, but yeah. Basically, the Enderian species was formed from this unstable molten goo. The rest of it stabilized and sunk into the ground, forming, over thousands of years, of course, this mystical ore called, well, I actually don't have a name for it yet. I'm thinking of Mithril because so easy and simple, but it could be something like Farnic or something like that, or Farmic as a name. I'm not too sure yet, but basically, it's so powerful and strong and dense because of its magical properties that it's basically equal with netherite. The idea behind this ore is that it's equal to netherite when you don't do anything special to it, but when forged a certain way, instead of heating it up using a simple thing like, oh, I don't know, fire, however, if you use, or us, or, I don't really know how to explain it, but instead of using fire, however, instead you use lightning, it's much more magical. The lightning sparks the magical energy inside of the ore, and it basically makes it enhance every enchantment. In other words, if you have prot 4, it'll be prot like 5. But if you have prot 1, it'll be prot 2. In other words, it just ups the ante of every enchantment by 1, which isn't as overpowered as it sounds. Except for like looting and stuff. And then it's pretty OP. But the idea behind it is quite simple. If you forge it a specific way, using a specific kind of forge at the specific temperature, you could create a super weapon. If done incorrectly, you could explode. I don't know, something stupid like that. In other words, unstable when electrified, but also empowered immensely. And if you form it into an actual blade that can conduct said electricity, or better yet, control the movement of it, you'll basically stabilize it and make it a super weapon. My people are based off of forgers and like blacksmiths. So in other words, we trade all of our goods and services. And we mainly specialize in armor and weapons. So in other words, whereas a normal city market you'll see foods, books, things like that, in ours you will see mainly armors, weapons, and tools, mainly. There are obviously foods and such, but our main concern are mythical weapons. Enchantments in our country are easy to obtain, and sometimes just crafting one in certain areas forms one of these said magical enchantments. The ideas behind this is that, well, while all of the shattered knowledge of magic scattered from this giant monster of old when it died, a big chunk of that magic rested in its final resting place, which happens to be the dead center of the forge. So crafting a giant super weapon of mass destruction could already have supernatural intent with it. The only thing is, just like its knowledge and its form and its magical substance, there's a highly chance that some weapons around here could be cursed if done incorrectly, because its soul, although shattered, is also resting here. Each fragment in the world has a portion of this thing's soul. If someone were to go to all of them with an item that could absorb or attract a soul, it could technically come back, which is why no one knows the location of all of these fragments. I'm thinking about making certain ones obvious, like having pointy stones or runic symbols or something along those lines, but I'm mainly focused on the forge at the moment. seeing as it's one of the most important places in my entire culture if this place were to exist. So mainly, we want to focus on the absolute gorgeous forge. So I'm thinking about making the wall extend behind these pillars or in them. Now, seeing as I suck at making walls, in them might be the best option. Just like so. Oh my god, this controller drift is gonna kill me. One of these days, man. Alright. Something along those lines all the way up. You can kind of envision it in your head. It won't look the worst. It'll just not look as good as I would hope. But yeah, the idea is pretty simple behind it. You make a super wall in all these different areas. Why do I keep adding super to the beginning of every sentence? I don't know, but I do. So yeah, that's the idea behind it. I don't think we're gonna get to that though, seeing as how it's not really my strong suit. Especially not with this controller drift, which, by the way, guys, I will be fixing in the future. Don't worry about that. It'll be gone by probably either next stream or next stream. There are ways of fixing it, and I'm tempted to do one of them. It's mainly my vision, not my actual, like, controller, like, movement. And I think I can fix it quite easily, so I'll be trying that ways of fixing it and all that very soon. But yeah, guys, tell me what you think of the whole lore. Try to come up with any ideas for anything special. This idea is pretty simple, but if you can find some form of added stuff that could make it better, like we're keepers of knowledge, or maybe some of us dabbled in other kinds of lore, go ahead and shoot that over to me simply by, I don't know if it'll show my username right here, but PlayStation, right there, Goku77_YT. So, if any of you ever have the idea of adding me, go ahead. I do accept friend requests, and yeah. Don't get your hopes up. If I see like a bajillion people on my friends list, I won't hit accept all. That'll be crazy and stupid. I will accept certain ones that shoot me a decent message, or just want to talk. But yeah, as for that, there's nothing really else I can add to this knowledge. So far, I could just tell you about some of the lore behind the Endirian race. We are connected to magic via the elemental masters of our people, or guardians, I should say. Basically, long before time had a name, blah blah blah, first Spinjitzu master, you get the whole point. The actual lore behind it's different. It's basically Ninjago. Anyway, the lore behind that is pretty simple. Basically, when this thing died, it created the Endirian race. Each one of the Endirians, original the first, as we call them, formed into these guardians of elements. So each one guarded a specific element and had the task of guarding it and rescuing it from whatever peril it was in. Now, the very first of these first ones, or the great ones, was the ultimate great one. And this guy was like God. He had all of the elements mastered. His task was to guard a temple that basically held the sources of each magic, and also could control them with ease. But the only problem is, over time, his body lost form, and he turned into a specter, or a spectar. In other words, he is the direct descendant of the creature. Unlike us, he was like a re-embodiment of the creature that died. Now, basically, this darkness sought us out the minute we were created and saw our potential and our magical hold on elements. As such, the Endirian race was sought after by multiple different creatures. One of these unknown presences was known as the Darkness. The Darkness is not, really well recorded. We don't know much about them. All we know is they somehow tricked each and every guardian of their respected element into building this sort of runic temple. Each one created their own separate runic temples in a specific runic shape in a pattern around the center super temple or the elemental master temple. Now, when they did this, each temple lit up after placing their runes on them. All of a sudden, the mystical beasts known as the elements were trapped. The elemental energies and forces were still around, but now contained permanently in these temples. The living embodiment of fire, earth, magic, death, all of the different elements, life, light, darkness, all of them formed into these beings stuck inside of these little chambers. The idea behind it was once they did this, the darkness would fuse each and every element together, making a super element, or mud, if you follow Avatar. Yeah, but basically, warm mud. They created a super monster and used all of those elemental energies to fuse them together and attract the beam of elements directly towards the center runic temple. This temple was then sought after by them. When the darkness arrived, they noticed that the elemental master was trying to calm this amalgamation of elements. It was not working, and they forced his body to be the vessel for this elemental amalgamation. Once they did this, they were going to use this ultimate creature that they created and use it as their new darkness body. They were going to destroy the world, basically, using this power. Turns out they underestimated it, luckily. With the new enhanced power of the Elemental Master, unknowing of who the hell he was, because he has a lot of voices in his head, he kinda lost it. And, well, as a deranged lunatic myself, I can say losing it is not the best idea. Once he did that, the darkness couldn't control anything in that head of his and couldn't form him into their new body. So, this elemental creature then took away the darkness completely, sending them underground. No one knows exactly what happened to the darkness. All we know is that the elemental creature that was the elemental masters and guardians, well, it kind of disappeared after that. Our modern people haven't been able to scribe any more ancient texts than what we already have, and, well, from what it looks like, some people disappear. As you've already seen, other creatures that have immense power have melted before. Speaking of, that one, the first one, yep, the one that created us. Pretty simple. Catching on now? Makes sense? Yeah, well, this creature wasn't reported to have melted, but it also wasn't reported to have existed. You see, the first Guardians were formed into this creature. All of the Enderian race was then inside that creature. No one else should have existed. Right now, I shouldn't exist right now, by this history. Problem is, we don't know what happened to the creature. All we know is that the Elemental Guardian's direct descendants still have a connection with those elements. Some problems are, they never had any children. Another problem is, what happened to the elements? Why are they here now? What happened? We don't know. All we do know, from hypothesis and theory, is that after the creature was formed and banished the darkness, it found a way to separate the darkness, forming shards of the darkness soul, and the souls of the darkness still wander around as dark specters. Other than that, we can hypothesize, that the creature somehow defused over a long period of time. We're assuming that using the Elemental Master's magical power, he managed to collect himself over years and form the elements back into what they should be by convincing each and every one of them that they didn't need to worry and they should be calm. With the elements then being created, or should I say reborn, they formed into different items. The element of nature formed into a mighty tree. The element of darkness formed into the sky. You know, darkness. The element of light formed into the sun. But all of this doesn't add up. The sun? How could that be when the sun already existed? That's my point. This is clearly some true fact, but after that, the hypothesis becomes awkward. Because, yes, the elements must have taken form, but no one knows exactly how or where or what the elements took form into or should become. In other words, we don't actually know. So far, we know this. The elements must have defused and formed into new creatures somehow. We also know that they were weaker after doing whatever they did. We do not know, however, what they became or how or where they became it. What we do know for sure is that the creatures must have defused, there must be a reason why they defused, and there must be another reason on how they defused. First of all, if banishing the darkness turned it into a whole bunch of separate things, maybe perhaps using the Endirian knowledge they had, defused themselves by banishing themselves to Earth, to walk the plains. Which would make sense if any of that actually happened, but we don't know. In other words, just like every other mythos, we don't really know what's real and what's not. We know that that part that we have scribed is real. We just don't know what happened to the elemental beast, or what happened to the Endirian race. But, going off of our past and our future, we can go off of our modern day and say, somehow they defused, we're not going to get into that, but the Endirian race must have lost their elemental connection somehow by doing whatever they did to undo what they did. And as such, someone or something must have caused them to lose their power. Once they lost their power, my guess is they went on to become the race that they are today. Alright. Now we do know a future text where the Endirians and Endermen went to war, which was only a few, probably years after the Earth recovered. The darkness formed an alliance with some of these Endirian creatures. The Endirians then got split. First, the Endermen and the Endirians. This is the first of them. The Endirians obviously were created of the elements themselves as a re-embodiment of their energy and force as a guardian to protect them. Now we know for a fact that these guardians then failed their mission, so the elements lost their trust in them, but still kept a connection to them. In other words, if an Endirian of now, like modern age, found a way to redeem themselves or save an element in any way, perhaps the elements could strengthen their connections with the Endirians once again. We don't know for sure. All we know is that the Endirians possess an ability to connect with nature or any element of their choice. Well, not really of choice, but of bloodline. For instance, me, the leader of the Forge, the Master Smith, aka the king of this country or nation, happens to be the direct descendant of two Endirian keepers of nature and others. So, the first one is obviously magic. I am the direct descendant of magic itself, which is pretty cool. Sure, I lost the magical power along with my ancestors, but hey, maybe there's a way I can commune with it once again. The other element I may or may not have mastery of is either fire, knowledge, or light. I do not know for sure which of these elements I possess. All I know is that I'm a master forgeman, which means I could have the ability of heat or fire. I could have the mastery of lightning, the element, because of the fact that I forge with it. But who would know? Mainly, I have a lot of knowledge and can learn things quicker than other Enderians, which, by the way, Enderians are quite good at learning. They're skilled craftsmen. In other words, give them a month and they can master any skill, if they really so choose to wish to do that. They seem to have a cocky attitude, most of them. In other words, Enderians believe that they're better than everyone else because they're direct descendants of the things that make the world go round, and they also have extreme knowledge and think of themselves as God. Why? Because, well, unlike me and most other Enderians of the modern age, the ancient Enderians thought themselves gifted by the gods themselves and thought themselves as higher than the rest of everything living. Now, there was a stage when they lost their powers and connected with nature internally, making them kind of at peace with themselves, becoming unwhole, trying to fill that gap by seeing themselves as equals as to others. Now, as the Enderian race split, and split, and split, and split, some took to forging, some took to their previous elements and just living with them. Some took to, like, writing, some took to everything else. In other words, they all kind of scattered and did their own profession, not sticking together, but more or less sticking in these camps. These camps then provided most of our race's history and whereabouts. Anyways, what about happened was quite simple. After our race was scattered along these lands, two main factions decided to come together and make a big, like, village, if you will, in the final resting place of their ancestors. These ancestral bodies that are now known as the land of Erebor, or whatever the hell I want to call this place. I'm just using Erebor because haha, funny, Middle Earth, haha, funny. Anyway, yeah, this place, our main home, this is not it, obviously. This is just where I'm building because I don't have PlayStation Plus. And it's not my server, so kind of sucks. But yeah, basically pretty simple on what happened. In other words, when they found the final resting place of their ancestors, they formed an alliance, creating a village. This village then split in two. Because the darkness had once again returned from its banishment, most of the darkness, as I said before, was banished to underground, deep in the earth. The other fragmented pieces of the darkness had formed back together on the mainland. Now there was a dark presence again, not as strong as the first, but hey, we didn't need to worry about that. Because they're not really strong, they're more or less deceptive. They deceived our race once again, and provided dark magic and dark energy, and the ability to transport one's self to between the normal world and the dark dimension, or this in-between dimension. Now, what happened next was quite spooky. The ones who accepted this gift and became loyal servants of the darkness, then had to face their own brotherhood and their own families in battle. The ones who did not accept had to fight off the darkness themselves. With no elemental connection, no really powerful weapons, no nothing to their name, the Enderian race was forced to travel dimensions. At the time, they had lost most of their dimensional travel knowledge, but as Enderians, they can still teleport with ease. So, the Enderian race eventually lost the ability to teleport, as you can clearly tell, because we're players. But yes, mainly this is what happened during that fight. The Enderians transported themselves to the battlefront of the end, quickly and swiftly taken over by the far superior, more powerful Enderians, or Endermen, I should say. These Endermen, corrupted by darkness, eventually would grow to become warped and not the same. How do I know this? Simple. You see how tall they are and how skinny they are? That's because they mainly traveled using this dark dimension. This dark dimension eventually twisted them to become taller and skinnier. But the reason they have no muscle mass at all, but yet can do so much damage, is because they use dark magic to enhance their bodies. causing it to be warped. The reason they're so skinny is because they never needed to have any fat or any muscle at all on their bodies to travel in this other dimension. This dimension had zero gravity, and basically you could roam free like some flying bird without as much effort. Pretty cool. In all. Kind of like the levitation spell. Problem with it is not needing muscle means your body will get rid of it for other things. Or energy, whatever. And that's exactly what their bodies did. They grew taller because they didn't need to duck under trees or live under roofs anymore. This whole dimension could shelter them. This dimension then formed into mainly corrupting the End. The End dimension used to be something along the lines of the Nether, and before the Nether, it used to look something like ours. There used to be 3 dimensions. Sadly, where the sun was resting, it rose out of the earth, and, well, where it was resting is what we now know as the Nether. Now, the upper place, the darkest of all, the End, is the end of time and space. It's like a physical embodiment of the end of time, which is why it's so vast and empty and strange to look at, because it's what's eventually going to happen to all. In other words, the end result of everything is the end. It's called the End because it is the end, and that's pretty cool. What I want to say is that the Enderman basically took over the End instantly, killing millions of Enderians in that spot. It's said that the Enderian connections to the elements still lived on, but somehow the Enderians themselves were not alive. So, although the Enderian of Death died, since it was the Enderian of Death, per se, it could choose another host, since it was dead, and death is kind of its specialty. So, in other words, direct descendants who were not in the war, children at the time, were evacuated to caves, other places that they wouldn't be found, small shelters of roofing where people couldn't get in if they were Enderian, or Enderman, sorry. This warping took process over millions of years, however, or at least a couple, 10 at most, probably. So this war lasted about 10 years, I'd say, before the Enderians quit and gave up. The Endermen got warped over the years and became taller and taller the longer they lasted. The reason that this creature, known as the Enderman, is quite ferocious compared to the normal is because not only do they have their elemental connection, although severed and, well, twisted for their gain, they also have the power of dark magic and darkness on their side. With unlimited dark knowledge, super powerful magical force, and, the fact that over time the darkness dimension would corrupt their eyesight so they couldn't see anything in the dark or in the light. It would take you looking at them that would give them the sense. This would give the advantage to the Enderians, since we may share the same look for our eyes, but we're not blind. We can see without people seeing us first. Mainly, we are the more skilled and more connected race, and smarter. They, however, got all of their stuff instantly. We had to grow to become the race we are now. We know that we're weaker than other races. We know that the Enderians were formed from magic, and magic does not, well, hold up very well. We know that magic is only as strong as the user who creates the spell, and we know that this user was stronger than all the rest of the creatures, but direct descendants of the ancient other creatures, such as titans and dragons, they would also be stronger than us, because they had to biologically do it. We just became powerful by absorbing. The Enderian race, fun fact, still has the ability to absorb. It's just not as good as it used to be. In other words, if an Enderian so wished, he could put out a fire with his finger, His finger would be really hot for a while and probably look like a match, but hey, it would work. In other words, we can do small things to do with elements, like absorbing them. That does not give us connection, it does not do anything for us, it just probably weakens the connection, because we shouldn't be abusing any element at all, or else the other elements will look down upon it. So as I said, the Enderian direct descendant thing is more powerful than the Enderian connection to just the element because it chose you. If the element chose you to be the connected one, it doesn't mean you're special. It also chose the original Guardians, and they were the most powerful of all. The direct descendant of those original Guardians would be the second most powerful in modern day. And the third most powerful would be those who have been chosen recently, and the fourth would be those who were chosen long ago and forgotten. In other words, the main powers of the universe's elements imbued in Enderian culture would be probably okay. So the idea behind this whole storytelling time is basically that now the direct descendants of two elements that coincide with each other are now the most powerful of all. Me, having the ability to commune with every element, which is odd since, I am the direct descendant of magic and probably knowledge, not simply, everything. I may or may not be related in the lore to the original master of all elements. Even he lost his power after the Great Darkness, but he still had his connection with every element, unlike small elements. I believe that was my actual direct descendant. I am a direct descendant of the first of the first. The beginning of the beginning. I'm the direct descendant of a historical figure that shaped the whole Enderian race to what it is today. But if that's the case, why am I so special with magic and knowledge? Well, magic coincides with all elements. Not only can you use magic to be a necromancer to bring back the dead, you can also do it to kill people, which is death and life. You can also use the power of magic to start fire, control lightning. All the kinds of elements are connected to magic itself, which is why, as a part-time mage, I also have a great connection to it. Knowledge? Well, that's simple. With magic, you need knowledge. As the first thing to be born from the magical goo, it also was born mostly of the magical brain as well. So the giant shard of knowledge that's here also formed what I am today. My previous self, my ancient past. In other words, I'm basically the Pharaoh from Yu-Gi-Oh! I'm ancient, but also I'm not that old. God. But yes, I'm a part of an ancient bloodline. A bloodline more powerful than the rest, chosen to be the guardian and protector and leader of the rest. But also, that's not why I'm in charge. I'm in charge because I fight for myself and others too. I'm in charge because I'm the leader of the country. And the reason I'm in charge of the country is that simple reason. I'm the most powerful of them all. I was born leader, and I am also quite knowledgeable when it comes to warfare. As such, my country has built itself for me, using the power of knowledge. In other words, this whole building that's going to be here, the Master Forge, is going to be an ancient building built by the first settlers of this area, the Enderian and Enderman race, before they split and became two different bio races or sub races. They were one. And those one race was most powerful of all, because they didn't use magic for themselves, like the darkness of the Enderian, or Endermans. But they also didn't use magic just for others, like the Enderians. They used it for everyone. They were neutral, and didn't use it when it didn't want to be used. In other words, instead of controlling magic, they more of communed with it. Which is quite cool. There are few in the universe who can commune with magic now. One that I know of. Possibly more. I can commune with not only 1,000 wills, but also 1,000 voices. Coming from the most powerful of the Titan race and Dragon race. The Dragon of 1,000 voices, and the Titan of 1,000 wills, I believe, if I'm not correct. Don't question it. But all in all, I'm connected to them. And they were the first. The Spectar, not Spectre. The Spectar was the first of the Spectres. The Spectre race is the original race that wandered the Earth alongside dragons and titans. It was the one who decided to absorb all. That is the Spectar. The Spectre race, however, is different. Basically, it's the soul of each creature. So a Spector, or Spectre, could be me, for instance. If I died and I was the first Endirian alive, I would become the Spector, or Spectre, for the Endirians. There are ones of weaker creatures, but those say to die out very soon, and those are the ones of darker, more powerful creatures. The Spectar was the first thing alive. It was a Titan. An ancient Titan. One before the rest. There is still, fun fact, one still beating heart of a Titan left. One of the most powerful Titans, however. One of the ones that I'm connected to. It's the Titan I'm connected to. That of 1,000 wills lies within my mind. Which is also why I'm so stern and powerful. That's another reason. But yeah, basically, all that mumbo-jumbo equals... Ayo, mumbo-jumbo, redstone. Ooh, got him. Anyway, yeah, that's the whole point of my abilities. And the reason I'm leader was because I'm not only the one who earned my leadership, but I'm also the one who was born to lead. This building I'm working on is going to be the most powerful of all. It's going to be the most, monumental build that I'm going to build. It's the Forge. A symbol of peace between two factions to show the power of the Endirian race when working together. The Endirian race was the name of the original race. The original race that came from the Spectre, the Spectar. Problem is, with that, what am I? Because I'm clearly not the same as the original Endirians. Well, that's simple. Endirian and Endirian are actually spelled kind of different, even though they're the same word. You see, while I am an Endirian, and there are Endermen, I should say, right? Enderman, Endirian. Similar. But then, the original race, even though it's pronounced the same in our language, is not Endirian. It's Endirion. Like that. Kind of. If you get what I'm saying. Like Endirion. Endirion is the original race. It was the one that basically held all of it together. They were both the Endirian and the Enderman before they split. It's said that the darkness would corrupt the Endirian part of an Endirion, making them into just an Enderman. The Endirion race is gone. The original Endirion race is gone. I don't believe there is a single living Endirion left. They are souls you can talk to if you're an Endirian. Not Endermen, but Endirian, because you're still connected to the elements. Basically, you know Mulan? Yeah, it's like that. The ghosts of her family and all that? Yeah, it's like that. It's literally like that. You can talk to the remnants of your family that actually moved on into peace. Those who did not, however, and did not find infinite knowledge and peace, are set to wander the earth forever until you can free them. So yeah, this has been 44 minutes long. I don't think a live stream needs to be this long. So now that you know the history and you know what this build is going to be, I wish you good luck next time we meet. And to that, I say goodbye. Make sure to leave a like, subscribe, Hit the bell if you really want to. Doesn't matter to me if you do any of those things. Mainly, keep in touch. You don't have to stay tuned by subscribing if you don't want to. But hey, if you want to subscribe and see more of my really boring story times or anything else, then yes, go ahead and leave a like or comment. I don't know if they even let me get comments anymore. YouTube is mean. But yeah, like I said before earlier in this stream, Goku77 underscore YT, hook me up on PlayStation, please. Look me up, bro. Just add me, send me a friend request, or if they let you, just message me outright. I'll take a look. If you say something interesting, I'll go ahead and add you and say, hey, yo, you wanna like help me out? You wanna help me with my lore? Whatever. I could get you to be a key member if you really wish. But yeah. Other than that, yeah, that's pretty much it. Have fun, and as always, stay cool, stay frosty, and from yours truly,